Hi everyone, welcome to my second micro lecture this afternoon. Before I have a thorough discussion of my topic, let me ask you first this question. How do you plan a lesson for your students? Right, you plan for a purpose. You plan for a sequence, right? So you start from your stating your objectives, designing your activities, then evaluating your activities, and that's your assessment. Now let's see if your assessments is also the idea of Ralph Tyler's rationale in this curriculum development. So my topic is Ralph Tyler's rationale in curriculum development. The proponent of this topic is Ralph Tyler. And who is Ralph Tyler? Ralph Tyler is considered to be the father of behavioral objectives. He was closely associated with curriculum theory in development and educational assessment and evaluation. He became nationally prominent due to his involvement in the progressive education-related 8-year study in 1933 to 1941. So among his most useful works is Basic Principles of Curriculum and Instruction, a course syllabus used by generations of college students as a basic reference for curriculum instruction and development. So what is basically the concept of his idea? So Tyler recast the idea of pencil and paper testing into a broadened construct that could be best described as an evidence collecting process where the idea educational evaluation was born. It also helped him to conceive of a new model for the development of the experimental curricula used in the schools of the 8-year study, so a model now that is famously known as the Tyler Rationale. So his concept aimed to organize the curriculum around several key functions, including the identification of purposes, the organization of instruction attendant to such purposes, the designs of evaluation mechanisms used to determine whether the stated purposes have been attained. So Tyler's rationale was remarkable in its times as it embraces the curriculum sources, such as its conception of education essentially as experience. So it's based on the experience, especially the experience of the students. Second, its approach to assessment as evaluation rather than as measurement. So how the particular experience, how the particular activities are measured. Then its approach to curriculum development as a problem-solving process. And last, its commitment to teacher participation in the development of curriculum and instruction. The teacher's way on how the identified problem has to be solved. The another day of his concept is learning takes place through the experiences which the learner has, that is, through the reactions he makes to the environment in which he is placed. For him, Learning experience refers to the interaction between the learner and the external conditions in the environment to which he reacts. Learning that takes place through the active behavior of the student. It is what he does that he learns, not what the teacher does. So it's more on learners' activities. Then, the invented evaluation as an alternative to measurement when it came to assessing student learning. Tyler approached the development of curriculum and instruction essentially as a problem-solving process. That's basically his idea. So Tyler recommended for teacher participation in curriculum development. As Tyler put it, if a school-wide program of curriculum reconstruction is undertaken, it is necessary that there be widespread faculty participation. So what are basically the four steps of Tyler's model? So determine the school purposes, that is stating your objectives. Then identify educational experiences related to purpose. That is designing what now your activities. Then organize the experiences and evaluate the purposes. So what is actually the Tyler's evaluation model? So there are actually 7 steps. One is establish objectives. Okay. Then classify objectives, define objectives, select indicators, develop measurement techniques, collect performance data, and analyze data. Okay. For the summary of his concept, for Tyler, his rationale is a linear model for curriculum development composed of 4 components. So we have objectives, activities, organization of activities, and evaluation. Of course, we state first our objectives, and the objectives are actually behavioral. So your aim is how this particular objective should be attained. Okay? And then your activities. So you are going to plan now what activities are you going to give in order to attain your objectives that is congruent to your objectives. Then you have to organize your activities. Let's say in your lesson or in our lesson, we have to start with simpler, then up to the higher level of activities. So maybe it starts from measuring the remembering or the knowledge part of our learners, then understanding. So what activities are going to give following the understanding activities? Then let's say doing. So this time the learners are going to give or practice their skills by doing. And of course the last one is evaluations. So evaluation is congruent also to your objectives. How are now you're going to assess the knowledge and skills of your learners parallel to your stated objectives. Okay, so What is now the relevance of Tyler's rationale to the video on Batang Langoy? So his idea is actually based on the problem-solving process, that in order for us to solve the problem of the child, we have to plan out first what is actually our objectives. And then, with that objectives in mind, we have to organize our activities. What are we going to do in order to solve the problem? Okay, and that after that, when we have already our activities, then we implement it, and finally we assess, are our plans of activities effective? So that's actually the idea of Tyler's rationale in connection with the video on Batang Langoy. Okay, so that's actually the concept of Tyler's rationale. Before I end my session, I'd like to leave you this statement that this actually according to Ralph Tyler, that teaching is not just a job, it is a human service, and it must be thought of as a mission. This is actually a very good quote of Ralph Tyler, in which it all tells us our dedication, our determination to do our part as a teacher in the teaching profession. It is a human service. It's not just to deliver knowledge and content to our students, but how we effectively deliver the instructions that affects the life of our learners. Okay, so that's it. So my references for this topic. So that's all. Thank you very much, and I hope you learned something from my topic.